Alright, so welcome to a very special Operation Fueled edition of T-Sided, the Counter-Strike Global Offensive podcast. I am your host for this evening, Element Fire, and I'm being joined with two of my oldest online friends, Twisted Faye,
Hello.
as well as Bama.
Howdy.
Now, if you guys could provide a little, just quick background on yourselves, how you got into gaming, any experience with first-person shooters, Counter-Strike, etc.
I guess if I can go first, and you might want to unmute your mic, dear.
I am a particularly avid gamer. I play a lot of different things. I never really played too many shooters personally, but I did get into Counter-Strike recently at Element's request. And that's all I'm gonna say about that.
So, Bama, anything to say for yourself?
Well, I think at first I got into the game, it was GoldenEye for the N64. I love that shooter. It was the best shooter ever. I haven't played much Counter-Strike. I'm still pretty much a noob at it, but I played it a few times. It's a decently fun game.
GoldenEye was the shit.
GoldenEye,
It is still the shit.
GoldenEye was so good. It was actually my introduction into shooters as a genre.
Mm-hmm.
Followed quickly by Unreal Tournament for the PC, where literally my gameplay consisted of which shade of brown do I shoot because my computer was a toaster. I had nothing.
That sounds incredibly racist.
No, it was like literally like the different shades of skin on my arm right now due to the sunburn. Like that's all the differentiation I had. I had there was no polygons. Everything was just a blur.
You could just do freckles.
It was incredibly racist sounding though.
Yeah, it really can't be helped.
So this week's discussion that kind of prompted the entire episode as a whole is the announce and implementation of Operation Bloodhound, which Valve, I just finished doing the reference document for the other episode 2 that will become episode 3. And lo and behold, Valve decides at 8 p.m. Eastern on a Tuesday to just be like, hey guys, new operation, have fun with it.
Hmm?
Valve, I don't know what you do. Your ways are indeed mysterious.
Well, we're still waiting for Half-Life 3, so...
No. Gaben has come out and said, Half-Life 3 unconfirmed. He's literally come out and said, look, if no one at Valve wants to make it, it's not happening. And no one at Valve currently wants to make it. So it's not happening.
That's like the worst cliffhanger in the world.
We've seen worse.
We've seen worse, but that's the current worst one.
So, the new Operation Bloodhound is a pass that you can obtain for $5.99 US that has a whole bunch of interesting features. For those of you unfamiliar to operations, they give you access, well, at least now, to a mission log that gives you 62 different weird objectives you can complete. Everything from use the bonus weapon in deathmatch to do this thing in a casual game, or deal with this gun in this scenario to kill this guy, now that they've added assassination and co-op guardian missions, which are an interesting twist. This also gives you the option of receiving the specific new case when it drops, the Falchion case, which has 16 community-chosen skins, as well as a new Falchion knife.
Which looks sweet, by the way.
It's very divisive. What? Are you supposed to be moving? You are supposed to be moving, and yet no one is moving.
I'm moving side to side. that makes you feel any better.
No, on the actual the stream itself, our cameras are frozen.
That's because I
Oh.
minimized. It's because I minimized it. Don't worry, I'm an idiot.
Elemental, but
So, so Bama, you touched on a point that like you like the knife, right?
yeah, it looks. I'm not gonna lie. It kind of looks like a. Oh, what am I trying to think of? The razor blade knife. I'm trying to think of it. That's what I'm trying to think of, because the make of the handle just looks like it's just an attachment, the knife itself, to the handle.
So yeah, I mean, you guys can see in the document that the knife has a very interesting look. As per usual, for those playing at home, I will link the knife pictures.
Or the knives.
The knife's an interesting one.
I mean, I personally find it kind of boring overall. I mean,
Well, that's the vanilla knife. It gets
I
different.
know.
But, and I agree, the vanilla knife is a very boring knife.
I mean, I don't even think I'd like it with different skins on it. It doesn't thrill me.
Well, yeah, CSGO Stash has a lovely collection of all of the knife skins, and they're all very, for the most part, they're all very like, here's a little strip in the middle, and then the rest of the thing is just whatever color it is. And it's very boring, and there's like, for example, the Urban Mast is literally just the pattern, what it looks like on a blank canvas. The only real distinct ones, I think, are the Slaughter and the Faith. Like, they're the only good-looking ones, in my opinion.
Well, it just came out, so it's going to take a little bit, and they're going to pop out some new looking skins for it eventually. Hopefully.
I mean, I know I am definitely the minority here. I find knife skins to be incredibly boring, no matter what knife it is. They are so boring, and I think they are not worth the amount that they're up on market for.
Well, I mean, right now, they've got the base knife itself is $341 for a knife that everyone universally agrees is terrible. Everyone. Everyone's like, this knife is shit. This knife is terrible. The animation to pull it out's like this. Like, you literally, like, here's the knife unfolded. Here's my hand. I'm just going to pretend to unfold this knife that's already open.
It's like, eh.
Yeah, it is pretty
You're
bad. I
stabbing
do
in the
like
hand.
quite a few of the skins for the case itself for the guns.
Yeah, the Falchion case has some very interesting features, and we keep crashing CSGO Stash, which is fantastic.
This never so happened to happen today.
Here's another link for those playing at home for the case. But some of these gun skins are very well done, and I'm really happy that they've turned around and put some good quality guns in this case. Because the last two cases, the last two Chroma cases, like, don't quote me on this, but they've been very, like, singular purpose. They've had a very narrow margin of what they wanted to do. Whereas this case is a lot more open and interesting. Especially at the higher tiers.
It's got decent looking skins for all the guns here. I especially like the Negev Loudmouth. Just
like,
running ammo drum.
Yeah, I thought that was a cute little touch that they added.
Run.
Well, if somebody's putting in a Negev at you, you should probably run.
Yeah, it's like, nah, I don't want that. No.
The interesting thing about the Negev skin is that it's done by the same guy that does the Galil Chatterbox, which is one of the most innovative skins I've seen in all of the guns in CSGO. Because the Chatterbox has this thing where the Galil normally has this thing that pops up, like up and down. It has movement when you fire the gun, instead of most of the other guns that just kind of sit there and like do their whole recoil thing. This one, they took the Chatterbox's ammunition thing and like turned it into a skeleton, like talking.
Oh, that's cute.
And it is one of the better things. I can't wait to see if this one has an emotion to it too.
So I know that it's named certainly for this without a problem, but the Galil AR rocket pop. The fact of the matter is that it reminds us of our favorite childhood treat is kind of silly and awesome at the same time.
I just want to eat it right now. I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie.
So
It looks just like
I'm
it.
just gonna throw that link into the Twitch chat because that is what it's a rocket pop. It's everything you ever got. You went to an ice cream shop and you got it from the truck and it was an ice cream and it was amazing and it was so good.
Until it fell off the stick and on the ground, then it makes everybody sad.
Maybe you should be better at eating popsicles.
perhaps.
I don't know. I think my favorite skin in this entire collection, just from an artistic standpoint, I have a hard time because some of them are really intricate and beautiful because of the fact that they are so intricate. Like the AWP, the Hyper Beast, is beautiful. The intricate details on it, it's got color, it's got so much stuff going on, and it's beautiful. Like, the artwork on it is amazing. But for whatever reason, I have to love the CZ75 Auto, the Yellow Jacket. It has such a clean look on it, and it's so pretty. I really love the simplicity of it.
Honestly, that's one of my least favorite skins in the whole case. Bottom three for me is probably that, the Nova Ranger, and the UMP Riot, just because of, like, the Ranger and the Riot because of how tired I find the whole, like, camo aesthetic.
Yeah, it looks kind of lazy and just slightly colored or slightly recolored.
Lately I've been doing this thing more and more where I'll be thinking about skins and guns and maps in terms of a more developer-oriented approach, because my forays into map design and creating my own custom maps in Counter-Strike, like, you tend to look at things when you're playing other people's maps and you're like, oh, okay, that's how they did this. Why did they not do that? Like, what happened here? And all I can think of for the UMP is, like, there are parts of this gun that you can very easily pick out and just kind of, like, be like, here's camo. Like, here's green. And, like, the Ranger is the same thing, where it's like, okay, I'm just going to throw this camouflage pattern over the gun, and then, like, there's a dial. There's a dial.
I was gonna say, I certainly agree with the Ranger and a couple of the other ones, but when you really inspect the Yellow Jacket in-game, you see a lot of, like, little nuances. You can see there's a little gray stripe along most of these areas where it almost acts as a highlight against the black. And although I'm not a big fan of yellow in itself, the way that it has, like, the little bit of a curve and swoosh around the trigger, the back of the trigger has a darkness to it, and it's from an artistic standpoint, it's very clean, it's very concise, and it's very simplistic. But it's got a little bit of a feel to it that just makes it really kind of pretty.
You know, I just inspected it, and I can understand. I can see where people enjoy it.
Like, I think the Cyrex is totally boring. It's just, like,
It's
edged in red.
it's what no, the Cyrex is what everyone likes to call the Tron skins, because they're just like angles and lines and color, like, broken up by blackness. Like, there's that one. There's the Asimov. There's the AK, the Vulcan. They're all these very, like, 80s Tron line-esque sort of skins that really do weird things.
I really, really want to get into the Gods and Monsters collection.
Okay, so we'll move on from that, from the case itself, because I want to talk about the way that the missions have evolved and what is now a part of everything. Because before, in the previous Operation Vanguard, they introduced this mission booklet structure that we have now, or the mission before that introduced it, but Vanguard really evolved the process into what it is now, where you were given these tracks that had different angles that you could take, and each one had, there were three basic lines: the orange, the yellow, and the green, to denote general difficulty. With the Vanguard ones, each had a collection of skins that each mission pulled from, where when you completed the mission, you could start doing this, you could get something out of the case that was part of the mission. So, each map, each of the basic maps in Counter-Strike had its own collection, like Dust 2, and Mirage, and Cobblestone. And so, this time around, they changed up the formula a little bit. Instead of getting a drop from the case or the collection for the map that you're currently in, there are 6 different collections that you can pull from. There's the Cobblestone, Cache, and Overpass, which are 3 of the map collections that have been around. But something important to note is that these 3 collections have the most expensive gun skins in them. The Cobblestone one has the Op Dragon Lore, which is the most sought-after skin in all the game, it seems. Cache has the Galil Cerberus, which is kind of it's similar to the Chatterbox, but it seems like the Chatterbox's, prototype, where it had the movement in the mouth, but it wasn't designed with that mouthpiece in mind. The mouth just happened to be there. And then the Overpass collection has the M4A1S Masterpiece, which is kind of this cool-looking graffiti, spray paint gun, which it's got a lot of color in it. It's very well loved and received by the community. But now we have these 3 new collections, which are added to the mix as bonuses. The first one is the Gods and Monsters collection, which has a lot of skins that are either Greek-themed or have references to ancient mythology in the way that they're patterned or how they operate.
I'm personally really into a lot of these, but I'm also kind of disappointed by some of them.
Link in the chat. A lot of them, I feel like a few of them are cop-outs in the sense that they use the labyrinth style texture way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely agree with you, and I'm particularly disappointed in the one. It's the M4A1S, which is it's called Icarus Fell, and
that one's my favorite. That one has gotta be my favorite.
It's pretty. It's really pretty for sure, but the story of Icarus is probably my favorite myth of all, and it's all about these wings and this this love of flying. He's supposed to be going back away from the Minotaur actually, and he has these wings made of wax and feathers, and he flies too close to the sun, and I don't feel like the gun actually really embodies any of that. Sure, it has a sea-bearing feel.
It does have a sun on it too, randomly, but
yeah, I mean
So it's a bit of a disappointment overall, I think.
It is.
Okay.
It is a disappointment.
Moving on from that, unless there's any other skins that you'd like to discuss in there, I personally feel like the Medusa is going to be the Medusa is up there with the Dragon Lore in how rare it's going to be, and it's not going to be as sought after, but it's definitely going to be a noteworthy gun skin.
Hold on, I must go save the gerbils.
Gerbils must be saved.
I really think that the Pandora's box is kind of adorable and it's got kind of a cartoon feel to it, which makes it definitely different than anything else in the case. And that's the MP9. The Tech 9, I think, is really kind of boring. It's basically just the helmet that they associate with
Yay!
a lot of
Like
the
Trojan helmet.
the
Yay.
yeah.
I'm gonna move on to the Chop Shop collection. Wow, Bama is off saving the gerbils. Because there's not much notable in this collection. It's very like plain color and like army stuff. Except for, I think the notable two are the Mac 10 Fade, which finally it gets a true fade. Because they had the other fade, but it wasn't like, the Amber Fade, I think, which is kind of off-putting. But the other one that I really enjoy is the Dual Beretta Duelist, just because of how clean the line is. There's a very nice ornate picture on the handle of the gun. It's got very clean lines outside of that, and it just looks very well put together.
I think another one they did well in that collection is the CZ75 Auto in the Emerald.
You just like CCs, I think.
I think I do. You're right. With this particular one, they made it very metallic looking, which is something that a lot of the other guns pretty much neglect. The Fade does it well, and a couple of other ones do it too. Like there's a Hot Rod that does emit the shiny well. It's not necessarily metallic, but the green portions of the CZ75, the Emerald, it's very metallic, and you can see that it has a nice sheen to it.
And my favorite collection, because I'm a weirdo like that, the Rising Sun, which is full of, like, Asian references and bamboo everywhere, and yes, the AUG has anime girl on it, but I'm not really concerned with that.
That's what I was gonna say.
I'm not going to lie, the AK looks kind of terrible. It's not a good-looking gun, but if you inspect it in-game, it looks quite respectable compared to what the picture is showing. The picture does not do that gun justice. It has much more of a season feel, actually. It feels very seasony. Like, this whole collection just feels like you could have ripped it right off the wall from the season map. Including that, like, the Bison, the PP Bison bamboo print, that is probably my favorite. But if
That one looks
That
really
particular
nice.
pattern's rather boring and very bland.
what, the bamboo pattern?
For the Bison, it's very bland.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the gray on the gray, but
I actually like the sawed-off the bamboo shadow a little bit better. It's very subtle and it's very beautiful.
so we're gonna move off of the gun skins and get back to the real meat and potatoes of this update, involving the new community maps, which are available to everyone regardless of whether or not you have the operation. They've included 6 maps as of right now. There's Agency, which is making its return, which is the only hostage map on this list. I'm not sure whether that speaks to the like relative lack of hostage maps in the workshop, or if that's more of a condemnation that the community, like, Valve's like, alright, maybe you guys aren't really into this as much, so we're only gonna throw in some favorites here and there.
I really think that's probably what it is. I've noticed that the hostage maps just really aren't as popular as pretty much anything else.
Well, mechanically speaking, the hostage maps have something that is very awkward. The game is balanced, like the way that Valve does the balancing of the game. It's very much composed itself around the bomb defusals and Dust 2 and maps like Inferno and Nuke and Mirage. So when you have this scenario like the hostage rescue, where normally the terrorists are the attacking team, so they have the gun advantage. They have the cheaper guns that are more effective, but they don't have the positional advantage because the counter-terrorists get control of the map. When you have this situation where the counter-terrorists are now the attacking team, you flip the whole thing on its head. And you really create this scenario where it's pretty difficult to deal with having more expensive guns and having to go on the offense. If you win the first 2 rounds, you might barely have enough money for a buy on counter-terrorist side. Like, especially if you get your wins via killing the enemy team as opposed to rescuing the hostages, which gives the team bonus money. So, like, if you get 2 hostage rescues, the team's got a lot more money than if each of you killed a guy once both each round. And that creates a situation where you still might have just enough money to buy, instead of on, like, let's say the terrorists are attacking on a normal bomb defusal map, they have so much extra money because the AK is like $400 cheaper than either M4. So
I could go on for quite a while about the inequalities of this game and the things that I see wrong with it, but Operation Bloodhound is going to introduce 62 new missions, right?
yeah, and each mission has its own set of objectives and things that you can do.
And cutscenes.
Yeah, no, they have a little cutscene at the beginning that deals with like what you're supposed to be doing. Like the one mission's labeled there's like retaliation or something, and there's revolution and marksman are the 2 missions, and each of them has their own unique spin, which I find to be an interesting twist in like how they're doing the game, as giving it more of a storyline, letting the mission and the operation speak for itself instead of just being this thing that you're doing. Why am I doing this? That, like, fleshing out the world is something that I feel a lot of esports kind of ignore. They push it to the side. But that's really the kind of world building that will propel a casual user base. And I know the word casual gets tossed around in a negative connotation a lot, but really, games live and die by their casual user base. The people that log on every day, not necessarily to play, like, grind out matches, though, just the people that enjoy playing the game for what it is. These are the friends that you make on community servers that you play with every day, that, you know, you don't really care about making, like, Legendary Eagle, or, like, any, like, you know, you're not working at the ladder, you're just having fun with your friends.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a casual player for CSGO and quite a few other games. I never feel the need to dedicate that much time to pretty much any video game. Like, I think of it as it's a game. It's fun. It's enjoyable, and I'm not really gonna, you know, worry too much about my rank or pretty much anything else that involves with the game. So I definitely put myself at like a casual for most games, maybe even like a medium core for some other games.
Well, I know, like, it's important. On the one hand, it's important to balance the game around the higher levels of play, because that's where you're going to see the game shine. The game is truly going to be this artful masterpiece when you watch high-end teams duke it out. But there's gotta be, while the mechanics have to be balanced around the high end, there's gotta be little breadcrumbs that you can leave behind for the rest of your user base to cling to. And, like, some MMOs do this brilliantly, like Final Fantasy XIV, where they have a ton of side things that are all really cool and give you kind of, like, things that you can show off to your friends, and, like, you can have a house and do all this stuff. But at the core, the raiding is very difficult, so that your high-end raiders can still have that challenge and be able to, like, get off on the thrill of competition while not hurting the rest of your user base as a result of it. Games like CSGO and League of Legends, however, tend to suffer a bit more because everybody views the game itself, the competition, the thrill of it all, is the core gameplay. And I feel like operations like this do an excellent job of bringing everyone together in sort of a celebratory manner, especially when you get to some of the weird things that can happen. Like, there's death matches where, like, you have to use, like, the P250, and you get bonus points for headshots, so it encourages people, like, if you're better at the game, you'll do better at this mission, but you're still stuck in a deathmatch using a pistol. So, it kind of brings that, like, fun spin where it's like everybody can just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I definitely can appreciate for sure.
Now, the other maps that they're bringing along with this operation, which everybody's thankful. Oh, thank Lord, we brought back Season. Season is fine. Like, ever since they did the reskin of it for Operation Vanguard, they've been kind of like, well, Season should have been in the map pool. We should have Season around. Why did Season go away? Guess what, guys? It's back.
Woo.
That's good.
I love the Japanese like corporate aesthetic that they set up with the redo, and it just lends itself very well to having a lot of things going on. It's a really beautiful map. Unfortunately, I do not have pictures of the new map for those of us playing at home.
Yeah, this was probably one of my more favorite maps when we were playing. Like, I played deathmatch on it at least.
Yeah, when we did Vanguard.
Yeah, and it was probably my favorite because it was the cleanest of all of the maps. And I'm very much a clean and simple kind of girl. I really like that aesthetic. And the only problem I ever had with it was falling into that little trench and never being able to get myself back out.
Oh, the pit. They did a few changes to that bomb site where for this update where they added like railings and stuff so that it'd be a little bit easy, like it'd be harder for you to deal with people in that pit area if you were just straight up trying to rush the site. But
Yeah.
a lot of the other updates they did were for clarity, like white on white corners where you couldn't see where one corner ended and the back wall of it began. A lot of those visual updates are like the little things that people don't think about, but they really appreciate when game time comes, because now you have this corner that's easily divisible. The other maps, which are brand new, and they're all workshop maps, which the community had worked on, including Zoo, Resort, Log, and Rails, which fall into two very distinct themes. Zoo and Resort are very much along Season's line of being like very clean, whitewashed areas that are both a tropical resort and like sort of like San Francisco Bay Zoo kind of vibe. Whereas Log and Rails have much more of a gritty earthiness to them.
So they sound like their names.
I mean, like, well, Rails, I played a bit on Rails, like a little bit of a bot game, just to get a feel for the map. And it's got this very snowy aesthetic, but it's still very dingy. Like, I felt like I was playing a snowed version of Train at night.
Interesting.
And I know you had been talking to me a while ago, Faye, about having nighttime maps and like what that would do to the game.
We did have this discussion, you're right.
And I want to bring you back to do another episode later about map making specifically, and the disadvantages and the advantages of dealing with certain things like nighttime and clothing and all that. But we'll get into that later.
I have a lot to say about that.
Yes, that's why I think that would make for a riotous debate. I'm going to talk about the last major... I'm going to shift gears a little bit. The last major update that they introduced with this operation, which was the addition of profile ranks. Profile ranks are probably the most out there change that Valve made in this update. You accumulate XP through completing games. Now, in competitive games, this boils down to having a count of what rounds you win. So, depending on how many rounds you win, you'll earn more points. In other game modes, this is determined by your score, which is calculated using kills, assists, in deathmatch chickens count, as well as objective-based things like bomb plants and defusals, hostage rescues, and eliminating the enemy team and such. What these experience points lead up to is sort of like, I want to call it akin to League of Legends, how you level your account from 0 to 30. And then your matchmaking rating is more akin to when you decide to go into solo queue ranked. This XP profile rank system it's very interesting because it adds a whole new level of depth, like I said, for the casual player. The person that plays often but doesn't play competitively. So you can show off that you've played a lot of CSGO, even if you're if you're nervous, you have ladder anxiety, or you just don't feel as though you're confident enough to actually get in the ring with people.
I also really think that it'll encourage people to do a little bit more. I know recently League entered into something that's pretty similar to it, where you can get your champion
Mastery, yeah.
So I mean, I know from personal standards that that change has pushed me to try to be better with the game itself, as well as the characters that I use in it. So I think that for some people, that extra little bit of oomph that'll push them into being, maybe they don't want to be totally competitive about it. They don't want to, play a million competitive games a week and try to get that super high rank in competitive. Maybe they just want to shoot 10,000 chickens in deathmatch. Well, there'll be a thing for them to do that in with the new ranking. They'll be able to show off what they do and what they've done, and even if they're not totally competitive about it.
I agree. Any form of alternate progression is a good form of alternate progression in my mind. I really think that you need alternate ways to show that you are, you're not just a petty person that doesn't play, or how you want to express yourself in game may not necessarily line up with most people, but at least there's a method for you that speaks to you and things that you want to do. Now, another fun facet of the rank system for the profiles is that each week, the first time you rank up to a new level, you earn a weapon drop. I'm not sure if the weapon drop counts towards your 2 for the week, or if it's an extra weapon drop. I don't think we've had anybody to quote on this yet, since it's literally a day old. But if you have the operation unlocked, that weapon is guaranteed to be from one of those 6 collections that we talked about prior. The Cobblestone, the Cache, the Overpass, Gods and Monsters, Chop Shop, or the Rising Sun collections. So this is a really good way of getting yourself a weekly chance at one of those super rare skins, like the Dragon Lore, or even the Medusa, now that that's out. All the ops. Right, everything comes down to expensive op skins. I can't explain it.
I mean, it always has. The op skins are always going to be a big thing, because oppers in themselves are I find them to be very egotistical, and they're very aware of their own rankings. And
I would say the word's probably more narcissistic.
I could have an entire podcast on the way in which opping is done in this game, but we'll get into that another day. Thank you.
We'll see you around, hopefully.
Peace out, man.
But, yeah, I really think they're kind of narcissistic. They're a little egotistical, and they know they want to be able to show off that gun. They want to be able to, op you, and that gun's going to show up, and they're like, oh, they killed you with this, and it's going to be like the most expensive gun in any shop ever, and it's going to be like, damn, I just got killed by a Dragon Lore, like, legit seas.
Yeah, the ability to become starstruck by dying to Dragon Lore is kind of absurd. But let's hope, like, the hope of all hopes, that everybody You get chances at these new weapons, and it's going to be like, from what I understand, this is 4 cases worth of weapons that you get to have fun and play around with now that the operation has kicked into full swing. I also forgot this. This is probably one of my favorite parts of these new missions. Um, the missions, like I said before, they have little like extra things you can do, but some of the more wacky examples I can give probably make this my favorite operation to date, in the sense that, um, for example, I'll say the second one in the Marksman campaign is called Training Day. Score up kills in casual reserve group matches. Normally, you need 10 kills, and this mission awards 200 XP towards your rank that we talked about before, the profile. You can have the chance to earn 20 bonus XP per kill if you have a weapon from the Lake Collection, which is a whole different set of skins that has nothing to do with any of this. So what this creates is a situation where you're enticed and rewarded for using skins that you might not otherwise have thought about using, because you may not like the way they look, or they're just not very appealing skins in general. But a lot of these missions that give you that option of having bonus XP for collection-based guns, they're ones that are like, there's only one op in the Lake Collection. There's only one Desert Eagle in the Chroma 2 Collection. So they give you a very narrow window to work with, but they also let you think outside the box as far as what you might want to do. Now, some of them are much more open, like scoring AUG kills in deathmatch zoo matches, where you get bonus XP for having the weapon scoped. Or you get bonus points for killing chickens in deathmatch instead of killing players. But the players still count, unlike last time. It was a big sticking point with the last Operation Vanguard, that certain things were like, I'm just aiming to shoot chickens. I can't, like, interacting with people was actively detrimental to my experience. Or, where you would have a situation where it's just like, when casual rounds, and let's face it, casual is a horridly boring format. It was 3-minute rounds, they lasted forever, 9 people per team, or I think it was 10 per team, that's the hard limit. But like, there were so many people flying around, nobody was dying, everyone was just sitting there camping each other, and it was insufferable, because you had to sit there, like, if you rushed a bomb slide, and you were like the first one to die, you had to sit through like 3 minutes of everyone standing around not knowing what to do because the rush failed. Now they've, as part of the other changes they made as part of this update, casual matches now only last 2 minutes and 15 seconds per round, which is much more in line with how the competitive matchmaking goes. Syncing up that round time really adds some legitimacy to it, I could say, where it's not as insufferable.
So we've already gone over the gun, the skins, the knives, and most of the things that are dropping from it. So, what would you say this new operation has in comparison to the previous operation, Operation Vanguard?
I think this is a much better evolution of the mission-based system that they had set up. With this operation, there's no bonus campaigns that you have to spend more money on. You buy the thing, you have all of it. The missions seem a bit more varied. There's new game types that have been introduced. There's new bonus conditions to give you little bit of an extra challenge if you're looking for it, or a way to score more points towards it. And probably another big one that I would have to point out is the fact that in Operation Vanguard, each path had its own thing, where once you reached the end of the green path, you got 1 star, reaching the end of the orange path, or the yellow path got you 2 stars, and the orange path got you 3 stars. Well, now there's like checkpoints where you'll get a couple stars here, a couple stars there, and in order to achieve your first set of stars, you only have to complete 5 missions.
Well, that's not too bad at all.
But you're not going to get your medal upgraded until you earn more than, like, before it was like you only needed like 6 stars to do the whole operation. You could have had a gold coin on like 3 missions. But now, even to get the second tier of coin, you need 9 more missions. Just from the get-go. 9 more stars.
Well, I would say that's pretty fair. I mean, you want there to be a challenge for the missions, but it's more than just, do X, Y, and Z, here, have a sticker.
Well, looking at the maps themselves for both for both the Marksman and the Revolution campaign, there's the first set of like checkpoints have 3 stars, and then the next set are at the very end. At least in Revolution, there's 6 stars right at the very end. So if once you complete that whole tree, you get the 9 that you need, or it works in a similar vein for Marksman, where you have the 3 at the beginning, and then if you complete the whole thing, you lead up to another 9. So I can't imagine that there's going to be much more of a hike once you get that initial 9 points. I can imagine maybe like 9, 12, 15 maybe, or maybe like you don't need all 6 or all 18 points, but the mission structure in this campaign is much better thought out, in my opinion. They've really fleshed out the system and introduced a lot of things that make it more streamlined, make it more newbie friendly, don't automatically trap you in a ton of casual or competitive games.
I mean, it definitely looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. I'd have to, get into it and experience everything to be able to really give a full review of the new missions. But it does look like a good system. It looks like a better structure.
It's at least a good start.
Which is pretty much all you can really ask for.
And for our, I guess for our closing segment this week, we can go into a quick tip to help you during your matchmaking and how you can try to improve your game.
Mm.
The tip that I'm going to present to the audience this week is something that I've been working on personally. And I feel like understanding is very much going to improve you. This week, of course, I'm talking about spray patterns for your guns. Now, while you're playing the game, each gun has a very specific way that it behaves as you hold down the trigger. Memorizing and understanding how each gun behaves with these patterns will help you out a great deal, even if you're not that, I want to say, I guess, even if you're not that well versed in a particular gun, like, understanding its recoil pattern will help you do better in panic situations, because people tend to just hold down the trigger. Oh god, an enemy! Pfft, just go.
That's more than likely what most situations are going to be like, oh no!
I can safely say I am never that person.
I do it all the time. I see somebody, I have the AK, I understand the AK spray pattern, and I just go. And I usually get them within like 5 shots.
In my case, I usually close my eyes, turn away, and point, and just pray.
The key to memorizing these patterns, though, is to, like, you know how you take the pattern and you want to condense it. And while you're spraying, you want to make sure that like you're controlling your mouse in such a manner that you don't veer too far off those initial couple hits, because most guns are fairly accurate if you're standing still. Like if you're standing still and you fire off one bullet, it's usually pretty 100% on target.
Mm-hmm.
Some guns, like by the time you get to like the fourth bullet, if you hold down the trigger, that's where you start to run into some issues.
That's why a nice little 3-bullet shot is always really nice to go off of.
Three round burst is a very good. They call it tapping usually, like when you start like 1, 2, 3, and like you let it go, and then 1, 2, 3 again.
Well, it doesn't have to be exactly 1, 2, 3, just like a little, a short little burst.
But like firing in short bursts like that gives you a little bit of spray, but it's in such a confined area that you can usually be much more accurate than you would be normally.
Yeah.
Pistols. Now you may think, oh, pistols, like they have the reload and everything, but pistols are surprisingly like if you're good at clicking a lot really fast. Pistols have a lot of spray to them. Like, you can generally, like, pull down, but... Like, there's a weird mechanic, especially to some of the other guns. Like, you look at the Tech 9 and the CZ75, where they have weird and wild spray patterns. Like, Tech 9...
Well, those are more automatic pistols, aren't they?
Well, the CZ75 is you can just hold it down and spray. But the Tech 9, like, you really have to, like, sit there and, like, jam the button down. Because while it's not an automatic weapon, you can fire like an automatic weapon.
Oh, okay. I'd say from what I'm seeing, most of the pistols, they're pretty much just working on the knockback. If you can work against the knockback, you got it pretty well off. They're trying to aim for at least head-end / body shots.
Yeah. I mean, pistols overall are pretty accurate no matter what.
Except for the Desert Eagle. I don't know what the hell it is with that gun.
Yeah, the Desert Eagle looks like it's just trying to, like, somebody just went...
And making sure you hit a piece of body, you're pretty good.
Now, you mentioned how, like, wild and wacky the Deagle is on the picture here. In the, like, the recoil thing. That's because the Desert Eagle's, reset, like, when you look at a gun, and in most games they do this, where, like, they'll have an animation where the recoil is, that generally, like, once you're sitting back at that static point, you're generally back to 100% accuracy. The Desert Eagle in Counter-Strike does this weird thing where, like, its reset isn't done, like, until it sits there for, like, a second. The recoil in-game doesn't actually match the animation. And so you'll fire off shots where you're like, my cursor was on it, it was perfectly straight. I was like, no, the Deagle... Hashtag just Deagle things.
Yeah, it just went... you may have shot 4, but it actually went a little bit that way.
So, hopefully, you can all make use of memorizing your gun spray patterns and be able to improve your game that way. It's especially useful. You'll notice that some guns like the Galil and the FAMAS have generally the same spray pattern as their... Like, they have very similar spray patterns to other guns. Like, the Galil spray pattern is very close to the AKs. But it varies less. So, the Galil is generally like a smaller version of the AK spray pattern. So that way you can sort of have a tighter control over it. It's a more friendly gun to use, but, like, being frank. The Galil and the FAMAS are smaller recoil patterns than their more expensive cousins, but they have certain disadvantages like lower damage to compensate for that, because they're much easier to use. There's just little things that, you know, they never cease to be useful, but they always surprise people on how simple they really are. So,
once you get the hang of it, it's not that bad.
With that, I believe it's time to wrap up the show. If anybody has any final thoughts that they'd like to convey,
I probably need to play this game more because I had no idea. This whole time I sat here like a blank slate.
well, you know what? I hope that we can all, you take advantage of the tips. You you see what's going on, and then we can, you work with it.
No.
This game is very, you can take it at your own pace, really. And a lot of people, I know they get like really hyped up about like, oh, this is like serious business, but there's a lot of things that I hope next time for the next operation we can sit here and have this entire discussion and have it be a lot more about like how the operations are evolving as a system, because this is all fairly new. The game's only been out for 2 years, a little bit more, but the operations are constantly evolving. Things are happening. They're changing the format up. And I look forward to what Valve comes up with next. And you know what? We'll revisit this in a week or two, and we'll see just how the thing fares. Because the progression system is a lot more lenient right now. Like, it used to be like, oh, you get one mission every like 3 days. But now it's like you literally earn an extra mission every 24 hours. Just one after another. So we should be able to, get some decent missions in within a week or two and really see where our chips fall.
Where it's all. Yeah.
I mean, I really think it'll be interesting to see how the mission evolves and how the operation it becomes over the next couple of weeks. When Vanguard came out, it was definitely interesting to watch which ones became the most popular map and like what the most popular gun skins were, and just all the little things that were associated with. Like to see where it goes in terms of favorites as well as issues or anything else that might come up over the course of the operation.
I know you're entirely new to this whole process, Bama, but
Yeah.
judging, like, do you have any thoughts on how you feel about them introducing more elements that really can appeal to a broader player base, like having operations with differing objectives that don't necessarily focus on win rounds in competitive?
Well, different maps bring different variety of missions. It also bring in different variety of people. Like, I assume this game is not stealth at all. No.
There are
The
some
blues, no.
you can play somewhat stealthy, but generally speaking,
No, you can't.
no. Generally
They
speaking,
usually-
like, stealth is kind of a last resort. Like,
Okay.
if you're trying to play stealthy, generally something went wrong. Or
They're just trying to be done.
that, or you're playing for picks. You're playing to try and see if you can catch somebody out,
Yeah.
which is a high level, very careful play. Most people just rush everything and
Like
Yeah,
me. Just pray they get something.
But yeah, no, there can be some stealth elements.
But no, with the new expansion of the missions, be a lot more fun. Be a lot, just a few more different maps for people to play. No, make life a little bit
That's another thing I could go on forever
better.
for the lack of stealth.
Well, no, it's just, like I said, I played this game like
I have quite a few
twice.
problems with this game, and I'm not afraid to voice them. And
This-
I think Element would probably facepalm into oblivion if I started ranting.
Now, this game is Counter-Strike is very different from most shooters that I've been even familiar with throughout my time. I'm not even talking about the new generation shooters like Call of Duty and all that. I'm talking like the differences between like the way that you would play Counter-Strike and the way that you would play games like GoldenEye, perfect example, like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, where your style of play varied much more, and games like Unreal Tournament, which were very fast paced, and they had a lot of depth that wasn't necessarily tied to your decision making, rather than your ability to just play the game well. Whereas there's genuinely some room in Counter-Strike. If you're not that mechanically skilled, you can still do something in Counter-Strike. Okay, well, it may be difficult for the team to have the team listening to you, but you can do it. If you play with a group that you're comfortable with, that you know will listen to you, because strategically you have a mind for a game, but you may not have the mechanics for it, you can find some success in Counter-Strike by leading the team.
Yeah.
Which is probably what drew me to this game in the first place.
Probably.
Just points to the direction where we're going to shoot at.
So, if the chat has any added questions about the operation or how we think it's going to shake out, feel free. We're going to use this time to kind of wind down a little bit and to probably get started on our operation. Just remember, don't hit the edge of the map.
You'll fall off.
That was an operation joke.
Oh. I was being quite literal. Once again, I played this game twice. Literally twice. I think I played once with y'all, and I think I played once with my girlfriend. We played, what was it called? I don't even know what it's called.
So, Supreme brings up about the playstyle of Call of Duty in the chat. And I feel like I want to touch on this because it's weird how Counter-Strike seems to have influenced COD's decision and like many of the other games. Like Counter-Strike, you look at that game and how you were restricted in your gun choice. And then you look at games like Halo, which suddenly started restricting you in your gun choice. And Call of Duty, which continued that trend of restricting your gun choices.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of found ways to slow the game down and make it a little bit more strategic by having you make these choices very consciously. So then you come full circle to the Modern Warfares, and eventually what happened is, like, you have a game like Advanced Warfare, which brings about not a 180, but it naturally evolved back into a style that more closely resembled the arena shooters like Unreal Tournament and Quake. The maps are designed nowadays as a circle that you can just run around in circles, and eventually you'll find people to kill. Mm-hmm. Because it's just designed to funnel you in a circle. And that very much speaks to the arena shooter style of gameplay, where you want to keep moving and you want to keep going. And that was never really like Counter-Strike's thing. You always wanted to be very direct and methodical in your movements. And Halo, even to a lesser extent, did this pretty well. Where you didn't have to be constantly running around and trying to find people to kill.
Mm-hmm.
Like camping, like you think about it, like camping is very effective in Halo. Decently so. Because of the fact that you're not encouraged to go around in that circular pattern as much as you are in, like, Advanced Warfare, let's say. Yeah, it's very busy.
I mean, I still very much feel like Counter-Strike does the whole running around in a circle way too much.
Well, that's on Deathmatch.
Oh, I'm talking about in regular, comp games. There are many times where we're running around in circles like, oh, you need to go to A, you need to go to B, you need to go to A, blah, blah, blah. Like, I really still feel like it's very circular.
I'm going to attribute that to a general lack of strategy when we play.
basically running around saying, I'm gonna shoot this guy, I'm gonna shoot this guy, I'm gonna go over here, run over here, just run. Just keep going, don't stop.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty much just like any other shooter. And I know, speaking of like Call of Duty and like Battlefield and a lot of those, a lot of people like COD and a lot of people like Battlefield, and I know that when I forget which one it was. One of the Battlefields came out, everyone was saying that they really liked Battlefield a lot more because of the fact that the maps were so much larger and there was better ways to like snipe and do things like it properly, and then they ended up changing that actually anyway, but
Well, I know Battlefield 4, like once they got rid of the bugs and stuff, was praised for the size of its maps and the depth of its gameplay.
Yeah, I think it was Battlefield 4.
Don't get me started on Hardline, which is like becoming Counter-Strike Light, but they have a mode that's literally Counter-Strike. Like,
I would really love to see
I actually get up from it.
A real military shooter that has
you cut out.
those.
There you go.
I really want to see those.
Hold on, you're breaking up. I'm
And
sorry.
things. I'm not cutting off. What are you talking about?
No, you were cutting off. I'm sorry.
And anyway, really would love to see more. Like, I hate sniping in this game. I really do. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, I have that. Oh, whoa. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Did the cat scare you?
What?
I'm sorry. My chair's little hook thing just like undid itself and I almost fell back. It was kind of terrible. Oh, and I have a cape. I do. I have a cape. It's over here.
Cape.
It's Velcroed to me. Yeah. So that's my night shirt. I am Batgirl.
Back girl.
I also think that's another topic we could get into later, is the evolution of shooters as a genre.
I thought you were going to say the evolution of me turning into Batgirl, but alright. I'm sorry, Sting. I'm so sorry, but yeah.
It's true.
Hi.
I'm sorry. I have to kind of do that every now and then. This is rather difficult though, because I have to deal with having us be in the same room with equipment that's not designed to handle multiple people in the same room. So for audio purposes, I do greatly apologize.
It can't really be helped.
It hasn't been terribly bad right now. I mean,
No,
I
we've been
can
pretty
hear
good today.
myself because I can
Yeah.
hear TeamSpeak, but yeah.
Go.
So I think we can safely put a lid on that and call it a successful podcast.
Snipers and CS:GO stuff.
Hey, we'll deal with that another day.
3 months. 3 months, and we're married.
So
3 months.
Ooh.
now lately I've been getting into this habit where we've been, I build this as a weekly show, but there's so much that happens. Like anybody that follows me on Twitter knows that I sit here and I rage against the CS:GO news cycle because I just think it's so brutal. Like I had a whole episode planned out, and then Valve's like, new operation, and just table flips my plans.
Wah wah.
So I'm going to likely be doing another episode, either probably tomorrow night or even into Friday. I'm pretty certain we'll just do it tomorrow. That I'm I to talk about all the stuff that happened over the weekend. And there's just so much going on.
Just all the everything right now.
The world of Counter-Strike is a vast place. And it's a very wonderful place sometimes. And it's not always that great. As you'll see when we go in, as you see when we go into the news. You know, I'm with Reaper again. Like, I almost don't want to stop. Like, we can just roll into the next episode. Screw it. Like, let's do this.
Oh, no,
Let's do it
probably
now.
not. This is where I become the demanding lady that I am.
All right. Well, we'll call it for tonight, and come back tomorrow night. Definitely, we're going to come back up, and we're going to talk about the news that actually went down this last week. And I'm being interrupted by. Okay.
That's
Okay. We're going to talk tomorrow night about the various things that are going on in the world of Counter-Strike. And hopefully, I'll see everyone there.
Y'all have a great night. Don't let the cat eat the gerbils. You need to stop
I forgot. If anybody has any social networking that they would care to advertise, here we go, because you can find me on Twitter at ElementFire, spelled exactly as you see in the video.
I also have a Twitter. It's Twisted Faye. It's the same thing as my name. I also do stream Final Fantasy. I haven't done it in a little while because I'm trying to get a better schedule. Trying to get a full-time job and get myself into, you know, having a life. So
I think you're at _twisted, TG _twisted.
Yeah, I think it's TG _twisted Faye. I think you are right. Funny there. I think. Yeah, I do stream Final Fantasy 14 around Reborn. If anybody's interested in that.
Yes, TG _twisted Faye.
That's we also have a gaming community if you want to join us on TeamSpeak at any time. I'm one of the administrators. Actually, everybody in here right now is actually an administrator of Tempest Gamers, and I believe Element is typing that out so that I don't have to.
He's getting there.
So you guys are welcome to join us in our TeamSpeak at any time. Talk about gaming. We play League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Final Fantasy, quite a few of the Blizzard games. And we pretty much are just a pretty down-to-earth, kind of quirky, funny, crazy.
I mean, anybody that's
vulgar.
Anybody that's been involved with anything that we do, either this broadcast or any of our past tournaments and such that we've hosted on the TeamSpeak, can attest to the kookiness that comes out sometimes. It's quite a ride.
I've been very, very tame during this broadcast. I will tell you, I am a much more profane and disturbing human being.
Tame is not the word for it, dear.
That's
the best words I got for it.
Hush you, gerbil boy.
So,
No, actually, kitty boy.
doth Gerbil Boy have social media?
I has no social media, but I has a cat.
Well, you can find Bama. You can occasionally find Bama on our TeamSpeak, where he loafs around like a kitten.
I was gonna say, I can see the top of that cat's ears, and that's it.
Ugh. They go, ow, 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 ow.
And with
No, he's
that,
not chewing these.
and with that bombshell of a black cat,
So cute. Oh my god.
for Twisted Faye and Bama, this is Element Fire signing out for the T-Sided podcast, and I hope to see you guys back tomorrow night for our actual show regarding actual Counter-Strike news and not just random things Valve decides to drop on me at 8 p.m.
I should just be like the voice of your